Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic on the Gold Coast. I hope wherever you are in this world of ours that you've been having an absolutely awesome week. Here in Australia, we're in the midst of winter and it's cold and it's wet and it's sort of not my favourite time of the year, and I'm really envious of our Northern Hemisphere family where you're in the warmth and you've got sunshine and you've got summer and you're having parties and going outside and just enjoying yourselves. And that's really warms my heart to know that there is parts of the world that are actually starting to open up and starting to get back to some sort of normality where, you know, finally they can sort of breathe a sigh of relief and go out and enjoy themselves a little bit and put the last 18 months in the rear vision mirror, even if it is only for a short while. Here in Australia, we're facing most of the country in some form or another of some sort of lockdown, shutdown, restrictions, wearing a mask or doing something because we've had a resurgence of it here. But that's to be expected. You know, COVID's not going anywhere in a hurry, I don't think. I wish it was. But we all need to stay vigilant and follow our local authorities and what they're telling us. And that's why I'm sort of a little bit envious of our Northern Hemisphere cousins as I see it on the TV and they're out having some fun and at the beach and just living life and enjoying life. And that's a good thing. That's warming my soul, let me assure you, and I'm sure many other people around the world today. So here we go with the Simply Tarot card of the week. Now, this is a rather ambiguous sort of card. A lot of people sort of say to me, Amanda, how on earth did you get the meaning out of this card that you share with us? Now, to me, it's the card of peace and harmony. Now, a lot of people would say, why would you say that when there's a woman sitting there with her eyes are blindfolded and she's at sort of cross purposes? Well, it is the card of peace and harmony. It is the card of needing to take the blindfold off and keep reassessing the situation at hand. Now, I really think this card is very apt for all of us around the world at the moment. Yes, we can find some sort of peace and harmony even in the middle of all this COVID madness, and we do need to keep taking the blindfold off. Now, by the blindfold, I'm meaning things in a very broad terms, and you've got to remember I wrote the meanings to these cards about 40-odd years ago, and they are still relevant today. But the blindfold in a situation that we're looking at today is make sure that we're not getting our information from unreliable sources. Yes, we need to keep taking the blindfold off, the things that blind us, the things that we may become blind to, and keep reassessing the situation at hand. Now, I know here in Australia at the moment, every second hour they seem to be announcing a different type of restriction or a different way that we look at the vaccine, and we've only got literally one, maybe two vaccines choices here in Australia, but they keep changing the age limit of who can have it and who can't have it and what the side effects might be. So it's one of those classic situations where you need to keep taking the blindfold off and make sure that you're getting your information from a reliable source like the health department, which is equivalent to the CDC in America. So it's interesting because I'm sure many of us have situations where we've got overload from all the information that's been thrown at us from media, from social media, from our family, our friends. Somebody else has got a different theory. Someone else says this is a hoax. Someone else says it's real. Someone says it's come out of a lab. Someone says it's come from a bat. And in the end, we just want to throw our hands in the air and say, I just don't know. And maybe that's probably one way of looking at it, but I think we all need to keep taking the blindfold off ourselves and keep reassessing the information that is being handed to us and make sure then that it sits comfortably with us. And to my way, my way of testing whether something's right, when I start to read something or I hear something, I take notice of what my tummy is telling me, my gut reaction. If I feel uncomfortable with it, then I think, well, maybe this is not maybe quite as truthful as it could be, or it's not sitting comfortably with me. If I don't feel any sort of reaction, then I look a little bit further to see if I can find some proof to back up the information that is being shared with me. If that's the case, then I sort of say, okay, that may be acceptable information, but I'm still going to be keeping my eye on where things are going. So I think that's a very wise words that we all need to be following at the moment, even if your life is starting to open up and in your local area you've got a lot more freedom than you once had. Terrific. I'm really thrilled for you. So we need to get on with the astrology section of the week. As each week we seem to have more and more and more information to talk about. don't know what we used to do on the show prior to COVID, but I'm sure we had other things that we talked about, of course. But now the astrology section is becoming so important each week. I have so many people messaging me each week saying it really helps me, Amanda. I get great insight. I get great information that helps me sort of calm myself down and know that I'm not the only one that's going through this, or it explains why my emotions are so erratic or why my thoughts have gone this way. So that's what I'm aiming to do with this astrology segment, is to bring you a little bit of peace of mind, but also let you know that the planets that are in our solar system do have an effect on the way that we function in our day-to-day lives. And I've been working with astrology well over 40 years now, and it still astounds me that how, planets up in a place that we can't even touch can have such an influence on our lives, and can have such an influence on, a major part of the population all at the same time. Yes, we all have free will, and yes, we all have a different way of maybe interpreting the information, that how we feel it lands and sits with us, and that's okay. That's important too. We all have to be individual, and we all have to take it as it resonates with us, or it doesn't resonate with us, and that's okay too. For some people, you might say, "Oh, well, I don't agree with you, Amanda." That's your choice. You're allowed to think that way. But if I've at least given you something to think about, to maybe a different way of approaching something or looking at something, then I've done my job. So at the moment, we're in the Cancerian time of the year, and which is a really nice time of the year, because a lot of people sort of think of Cancer and they think of soft and gentle and motherly and, beautiful smells coming out of the kitchen from a home-cooked meal or someone baking a cake. And yes, Cancer can represent all of those things. But the Cancerian energy is about emotional security, and their main aim is to feel emotionally secure, our darling little Cancerians. But the main thing that you can't underestimate about a Cancer is, just because they seem soft and pliable, don't make the mistake of thinking they aren't strong. You think of a crab. A crab has an extremely hard shell on the outside. It might be soft and has beautiful crab meat on the inside if you were to cook it, but it is extremely hard on the outside. So Cancer people can be very tough, can be very strong, and yes, they can retract into their shell when something doesn't suit them, but by the same time, they can come out fighting too. They've got this really hard shell, and they've got these really long tentacles and claws that they can really inflict some damage on you if they feel that they're in a threat. So our Cancer people that walk around on two legs can do exactly the same thing. So don't ever underestimate them. It is a time where here in the Southern Hemisphere, it's our winter time, where we sort of curl up on the lounge a little bit more and watch Netflix, or some sort of lose ourselves in a DVD series or something like that. And that's important too for our emotional well-being. For our Northern Hemisphere people, it's time to get out and party and have some fun and get some rays on your skin and just, sort of relax and enjoy and recharge your batteries in that way. So we're all recharging our batteries depending on the location that we live in, to how we're managing to do that. We also have the planet Mars. Mars is the planet of action. Some older astrologers sort of refer to Mars as the planet of war. I like to think of Mars as the planet of action, the one that motivates us to get out of bed of a morning, that says, okay, we're going to have a very forceful sort of day. We're going to get a lot done today because we've got plenty of energy and we're raring to go. Now, Mars is sitting in Leo at the moment, which is a fire sign. So this really sort of revs Mars up a little bit. Mars wants to get out there and strut his stuff and say, I'm important and you're going to take notice of me. I've got something really important to share with you. And the Leo energy is really the show-off part of Mars, sort of getting everybody's attention. But leaving all that aside, it's a time when we can achieve a great deal at the moment. If you need a lot of energy for something, or you need somebody to take notice of you, then really try and tap into your own inner Mars at the moment, because you have the ability to get people to listen to you, that they will take notice of you because you're presenting it in a manner that they can't resist, in a way that you've caught their attention. So now that you've got their attention, don't waste it. I want to move on to another area of astrology now. I know I try and keep it as simple as I can for those people that don't have any knowledge of astrology, and I quite often talk about planets holding hands or a conjunction. Well, now I'm going to talk about planets that are sitting in two signs away from each other. So, if it's in the sign of Pisces, then the other sign going backwards 2 signs away would be Capricorn. So it's not exactly holding hands, but what it means is that they're playing in the sandbox together really well. They're happy to be together. They're making a nice energy between each other, or what's known in astrological terms as a sextile, which is an easy configuration. So at the moment, we have Neptune, the planet of illusion and delusion, which has just gone direct in the last 7 days, is sitting in Pisces. Now, Neptune rules Pisces. This is where our creativity comes from. This is where our inspiration comes from. But it also can be a time of great confusion, because sometimes Neptune creates a fog that we need to sort of walk our way through, that we need to sort of just sit and be in the moment and allow our intuition and our higher mind to guide us to different things. And then when we start to come out of the fog, we start to see a number of potential possibilities for solutions. Sometimes there's only one, sometimes there's a dozen. And, we've got to sift through that and see which is the strongest contender. So with Neptune here feeling very comfortable and playing in the sandbox with Pluto, and we quite often talk about Pluto on this show, Pluto, the planet of transformation, been sitting in Capricorn now since 2008. We'll be there until well into 2022. So Pluto's role has been to completely try and transform us. Now, that's as individuals, as nations, and as a globe. So Pluto's had a pretty powerful role here in trying to shape the way that, the world will move forward. And I strongly do believe that Pluto is sort of, hitting us over the head with the baseball bat at the moment and saying, you're not really paying attention to my lessons. I haven't got long to go here, and I'm trying to get everybody to sort of get on the straight and narrow and to start to make changes in the world that is necessary. And those changes can start to happen by each and every one of us individually trying to make a small change, whether it's global warming, whether it's doing our part with the COVID thing, or whether it's just reorganising the way that we think and, for the first time in our lives, standing up to our local governments and the people in power and saying, hey, that's not what I believe in. We all have that power, as small as it might seem, but collectively it becomes a tsunami. So at the moment, we're being sort of asked to maybe sort of look at the people in power in slightly different eyes. Let's take that veil of Neptune off and stop looking at them in these, elusive sort of eyes that they can do no wrong, or it's really not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. Yeah, I don't like the government at hand, but that's okay. Someone else can vote them out, or someone else can do the hard work. No, we all have to stand together collectively here to try and get our message across as little people. And the little people then make a big crowd of people, and that's when we get change. So the final one in a similar situation that I'm going to talk about in a sextile is Uranus in Taurus. Now, Uranus in Taurus is the planet of the unusual and the unexpected, things that can change on a moment's notice. Now, while it's sitting in Taurus here, he's trying to give us the illusion that everything's very practical and logical and I'm doing everything for the right reasons and it's the things that are important to us that have got to change quickly. Yes, look, I agree with all that, but also Uranus is asking us to sort of shake it up a little bit. Look at how we handle crises in our lives. Look at the things that are important to us. What was important to us 2 years ago is not necessarily what's important to us today. Since we've had the pandemic worldwide, we've all taken a hit in some sort of way. We've all looked at our lives differently, and the things that were once important to us are now no longer as important. And family and friends and being able to communicate and hug the people that we love has suddenly gone to the top of the list because we haven't been able to do it. So that's been Uranus's role in teaching us to look at the things that are important to us, and it's not always about money and personal possessions. It's about the people that are in our lives. And sometimes I think we tend to look at the people in our lives as a little bit like a possession, and we can march them around to do what we want them to do instead of realising they have feelings and dreams and aspirations as well as our own, and we have to be considerate of that. So Uranus is sextiling Mercury, the planet of communication. Now, Mercury is back in its own sign of Gemini. Mercury has also just gone direct after a 3.5 week stint going retrograde or backwards. So communication is finally starting to get back on track again now. But with Mercury in Gemini, it's back in its own sign. It feels very comfortable there. And the Gemini energy is about local issues. It's about thinking outside the square, the snap of the fingers, getting involved with things, knowing what's going on in your local environment. So it's really, really important, I think, now that if you've got something to say, then put it on paper, send an email to your local member of parliament, whatever the case may be. Don't waste this time to voice your opinion. You might only be a little person and believe that you're not worth anything, but your opinion is worth something. And if enough of us start to do that and really take notice of the things that are being shared with us, particularly through the media, and I include social media and all of that, we need to make sure that this is the best. Sit comfortably with you, then do more research. Don't necessarily take it as gospel just because it's come from, quote, a reliable source or a trusted network that you've always trusted. Question it. It's your role to question when things aren't right. We're going to take our first caller now, and it's Adriana in Inwood, West Virginia in the USA. Are you there, Adriana?
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, sweetie. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I'm not real good on names. Oh, it's Adriana. Okay, Adriana. Now, do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie? My producer's saying I can blame him for spelling your name wrong on screen, but I'll take the blame as well.
Oh, it's okay. I just wanted some relationship advice.
Right. So you're not in a current relationship, Adriana?
I am.
Okay.
And I wanted to see what was maybe going on there.
Okay, the reason I asked that, because I felt that there was a shift. Now, a shift doesn't necessarily mean that the relationship's got to come to an end. What they were sharing with me is that there's certain areas of the relationship that are going to shift. You know, some belief systems, maybe the way that the relationship's been structured, or the things that were important to you or the other person, or just where the relationship's going. And it can sometimes present itself this way when we're going from sort of, quote, a casual sort of, let's see where it goes relationship, moving into the next level where we're starting to become serious, we're starting to talk futures. And in that sort of, you know, one or both of you might feel a little bit uncomfortable because it was, we were going to keep this simple, and now all of a sudden the emotions have got out of control and it's like, wow, I wasn't ready for this. That's more of what I'm picking up here. I'm not picking up an end to the relationship. I'm picking up that the relationship is like a living thing. It's growing, it's changing, it's evolving. And in that is going to come a couple of growing pains and a couple of things that are going to take you a little bit by surprise. But overall, things are going to get so much better. It's like, wow, we've both started to relax into this and really enjoy it. And let's sort of really sort of start to come together as a couple, even though we're still both very individual and we've still got things that we want to achieve as an individual. We can still do a lot of things together as a couple, and this really strengthens both of your lives. So has this other person talked about a future with you yet?
No.
It's going through their mind, though. They're thinking about it a lot. Because I just sort of feel in the relationship, you're the one that does all the talking and they do a lot of nodding, and occasionally you get a little bit of insight at what's going on in their head.
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and it makes it really difficult then to know what's going on in the other person's head if they don't open up and have a conversation. Sweetie, we're all wired differently, and when you've got somebody like that really finds it uncomfortable to open up and tell you what's in their heart and their head, then we've got to look at the actions. You know, we've got to look at actions sometimes speak louder than words. And sometimes it's about looking at that. I mean, if they're showing no sign of pulling away from you or going in the opposite direction, then you've got to take that as a good sign. I feel by about late August, this person is going to sit you down. Mightn't be a big conversation, but it might be something simple like this. You know, instead of asking you, you know, or talking about the potential of the two of you moving in together, you go over to have a bite to eat, and the next thing you know, they say to you, well, that's where you can put your clothes, darling. And you think, what clothes? Did I miss something? Do you know what I mean? But it's their way of asking you to move in and let's start a life together. And it wouldn't be the ideal way of doing it, but it's their way of doing it. So I really do think that this relationship is going to get stronger, And I do believe that there is really potential here for this to blossom and grow. And I think over time they will learn to be able to open up and sort of share with you what's going on in their heart and their head. So I hope that's helped you, Adriana.
It has. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome, because, you know, some relationships aren't always like we see them in the movies, and we tend to think we're going to be swept off our feet and, you know, they're going to say and do all the right things, and that's not always the way in the real world. You know, we've got many different types of personalities that make up the world, and this person obviously had some amazing attributes for you to be interested in the beginning. So, you know, you were interested in them because they were so lovely. So that's where we're going to leave Adriana. We're going to go to Monel in Germantown in Maryland. Are you there?
I am. Hello.
Hello, sweetie, and I apologise again if I've pronounced your name wrong. I'm not real good on the names.
No, you pronounced it correct. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Do you have a question I can work with, please, sweetie?
Yeah, I was just wondering, any guidance that comes up for you in terms of my spiritual gifts? And let me know if you want me to be more specific.
No, look, I mean, spiritual gifts, everybody has a different label for what they term as their spiritual gifts. So I always look at a spiritual gift as being us being able to connect with our own psychic ability, you know, our own ability to follow the information that's shared with us from the other side. Now, that can come in many different forms. You know, some people like to take up the study of tarot or numerology or astrology or one of those psychic sciences. But for a lot of other people, it's just about listening to their inner voice, you know, going with their gut feeling. What they're showing me for you is that there does need to be some sort of like official study. There's something there that, have you been looking to do a course in something or expand your knowledge in something that comes under one of these psychic sciences?
Nothing like official, just general expansion in knowledge and reading and things of that nature.
Well, that's good, because they were showing me books. So, you know, I mean, I suppose in today's terms, a lot of times a book is an old-fashioned thing, but I still believe it's information, whether it's a physical book or we're learning it online. I really think that's a great place to start, because none of us really know what we're truly attracted to or what is really natural to us unless we explore things. And, you know, for many, many years I've taught, you know, tarot and astrology, and I've always said to people, don't learn it unless you're drawn to it. Don't do it because everybody else is doing it or, you know, your best friend's doing it. It's got to be right for you. And I truly believe it, you know, in your journey, you need to look at everything, as many things as you can. And there'll be one or two or maybe three things that will really jump out at you, that really resonate with you, that really feel like I'm home. Then they're the things then you start to try and expand your knowledge on. But in the beginning, I think, you know, looking at a lot of things right across the board is very, very important. When I first started out, I used to read tea leaves. Now, I could probably no more read a tea leaf cup now to probably save my life from a point of view of knowing and understanding what the tea leaf configurations or the pictures that they're forming. Yes, psychically I'd get a lot of information, but it's a matter of anything that we learn is a point of focus. And the same with the, you know, if you were to go and learn, say, tarot, for argument's sake, yes, you learn all the basic meanings of the tarot and you look at the cards and you can say to me, oh, I get a completely different message. Well, that's great, because that's your psychic ability starting to kick in. So we all have different levels of psychic ability. We are all born psychic. Just some of us choose not to exercise that right. Some of us choose not to work with it. But for you, I feel that you're going to look at lots and lots of different things. And I think you're going to come up with a combination of psychic stuff as well as healing. I think you've been a healer in a couple of your past lives, and I think you've also been very strongly connected to one or two areas of psychic stuff. One, I think, involving cards, but the other one, I think, was involving something like the runes or something to that degree. It was sort of like something that you were picking up that was physical, that you were holding in your hand and then throwing. I mean, you know, that could have been bones, for argument's sake. It could have been runes. It could have been dice, but it was something that you felt that you liked that was tactile. that you like to sort of hold it in your hands. And that sort of, for you in a past life, was the connection of being able to open up that psychic channel. Not all of us are born to be mediums and contact the other side, and I don't think we need to necessarily force that or try and enforce that on ourselves. Let's just let your psychic ability guide you to what is right for you in your spiritual journey. And, you know, some people choose to make a profession out of it, and some people just choose to use it for themselves and their family and friends. Whatever you choose is right for you. There's no one size fits all. And I think that's the important thing to remember. My general guideline with things like this is, if it feels uncomfortable, leave it alone. It's not meant for you. If it feels like that you want to know more and more, then explore more and more. Read everything that you can find. You know, use the resources of the internet. You know, there's so many things on your YouTubes and things like that. Not all the information will be right, but what feels right to you is what you retain. What doesn't sit comfortably with you, discard. And then that way you start to build up your own psychic personality. And I think that's really important. You know, we don't want to be a carbon copy of someone else. Just because you admire someone's work doesn't necessarily mean you want to be a carbon copy replica of them, a clone of them. You don't. You take their information, their wisdom, and you make it your own. And you put your own personality and your own stamp on it, because that's really important too. And, you know, if there's one good thing that's come out of COVID, besides the fact that we've all realised that our family and friends are number one on our hit parade, not money, is the fact that we're all starting to open up and listen to our inner voice, to our psychic voice again. And I know that you're going to find the area that really suits you. So we're coming to the end of the show again. Doesn't the show go quickly every week? Just before we go, I do want to wish everybody in the USA a happy 4th of July. Make sure this year it's a big celebration. Even if you're still under restrictions where you are, do what you can, celebrate life, embrace it, embrace the beautiful weather, embrace your family, your friends, and be very grateful and thankful that you're still here and you have the opportunity to celebrate what the 4th of July means. For the rest of us that aren't in the US, we'll party along with you anyway, because we'd all like something to celebrate as well, which is really important. So until next week, have an absolutely fabulous week wherever you are, and enjoy the 4th of July. Bye for now.